Welcome back to the Baseball Odds Watch podcast with me, Eddie Virgil, your host with the most. I know it has been a very, very long time. I haven't, done one of these in a while. Uh, just life, life has kind of been lifing, but we're back. There's so much to talk about that has happened in the last few weeks that I haven't been on the pod um, that we had to go over because it's been wild. Baseball's been wild. It's only going to get even wilder. This has been a fun season because of it, because of all this drama and all this stuff that's happened. Baseball has become insanely entertaining, insanely entertaining. And the odds have moved up, down, left, and right. I mean, the ticker's not even updated. That's how much stuff has happened. The top five World Series favorites right now are the Los Angeles Dodgers at plus 230, the New York Yankees at plus 600, the New York Mets are the third favorites right now to win the World Series at plus 850, followed by the Detroit Tigers, which is incredible. I mean, that team has just been insane this year. They've always been fun to watch, but even more fun, I think, this year than years before, which we'll get into. And then the Philadelphia Phillies are the fifth favorites at plus 1,200. These odds, again, according to FanDuel, followed by the Cubs, the Astros, the Padres, the Giants have moved into the top 10 above the Atlanta Braves. And that rounds out the top 10. And obviously, that is because of the Rafi Devers trade. What a trade. What an incredible weekend, right? Like, we got to go through this a little bit because first things first, we've had the off-season drama. And if you're not caught up, let me just catch you up on that. Devers comes into this offseason. He's the Red Sox third baseman. He's one of the most prolific power bats in baseball right now. He's not a good defender, though. Subpar defensively, bottom third defensively. And this is known. But a few years ago, knowing this, the Red Sox made him a huge contract offer up over $300 million. Now, a couple years in, they're tired of the bad defense. They realize they need a better glove if they want to win, because the AL East isn't exactly super strong right now. So it's a winnable division. However, you need to play defense. If anybody could learn anything from the Yankees last year, it was that you still got to play good defense to win. You can't just pitch and hit. You've got to play good defense because it lost the Yankees the World Series. Now, late in the offseason, the Red Sox sign Alex Bregman. But this becomes a very public thing because, again, your big money guy, your franchise player, is Rafi Devers. It's Rafael Devers. And all of a sudden, you sign somebody to essentially take his job. And you make it public. That was the thing. This is where everything went wrong in Boston to me. Everything was done out in public. Everything was done in front of the cameras. And so every response was in front of the cameras. There weren't these behind closed doors conversations between the Red Sox front office and Rafi Devers. There weren't these behind closed doors conversations between mentorship figures in the Red Sox organization like a David Ortiz, a Manny Ramirez, a Pedro Martinez, right? These weren't happening behind closed doors. These were happening in the open. There were challenges being made to Devers. And they tell him, look, put your glove down. You don't have to play third. Now, I already went over that. And Devers feels how he feels about it. Now, where Devers did mess up was criticizing Red Sox ownership. You don't want to do that. But it's also kind of unfair that they're allowed to openly criticize him and he's not allowed to, opine back. So once that happened, this was a recipe for disaster for one of these sides. Like something was going to have to give between either ownership or Devers already. And then during the season, Triston Casas, their first baseman, gets injured, and they want Devers to go from DH to playing first base. Devers says no. You've got guys in this farm. There's free agents. There's trades. You guys got to figure this out. Now here we are. After sweeping the Yankees and Devers hitting a home run in that final game, Rafael Devers is pulled out of the terminal where the Red Sox are waiting to fly to Seattle, and they tell him, nope, you've been traded to the San Francisco Giants. Now, did the Red Sox make the wrong move is the question that is still to be answered. Because in reality, they're not keeping Devers' contract. The Giants are taking all of Rafi Devers' contract on. What's remaining of it, all $200 million of it. The return player-wise is not something that people are saying is much. Because you got Jordan Hicks, who's a struggling starter. He doesn't have a lot of control of his pitches. And his ERA is showing it. It's up over 6. You got another pitcher that you immediately designated for assignment. So you sent him down to AAA. And then a couple of prospects, one of them being Jose Bello. They're not like top tier prospects, but they're prospects, right? They were some of the best ones the Giants had to offer. I think they should have shopped them around. You could have found a team that would have been willing to take on Devers' contract and give you some good return for Rafi Devers. But the Red Sox wanted to send a message. The Red Sox wanted to send a message. And it was either you get with the program or you're not going to be here. And we don't really care what we get for you. In that sense, I think the Red Sox end up losing because you've kind of shown the rest of the league and even your own players, especially young players who are immature, who do say and do dumb things, right? You've got Jarren Duran, your all-star center fielder, who tends to get into arguments with people. You sent a message of, you're going to do what we tell you to, and you're going to shut up and like it, or you're not going to play here. And I don't know if that was the right message to send. Especially when you're now trying to develop because, oh, by the way, you gave up your most prolific bats, and now you've got to somehow find a way to replace him either in the offseason by signing someone or developing someone, or Roman Anthony, right, or whoever it's going to be. Now, another point has been raised that Masataka Yoshida can hit. He's just too hurt to play defense. So there, I kind of get it. Leave the spot open. So I'm starting to see both sides as time goes on and why this needed to happen. Now, moving to the Giants, because this trade immediately had its impact on the Giants as a team and the rest of the division because Devers gets to San Francisco, goes 1 for 4, 2 RBIs or 1 RBI immediately. Immediately. Now, the odds in the NL West, that is the scariest division in baseball right now, have changed. Because the Giants are, in fact, the second place team in the NL West. You know? And then the odds, the Dodgers are still the heavy favorites at minus 1,300. The Giants are now the second favorites, though, at plus 1,500, which is a huge gap considering it's only a 3.5 game difference between the two, and they still have to play each other, sometime in this season. I know the schedule's a little weird now because these divisional teams don't play each other as much, but they do have to get through the Dodgers. And you don't know what Devers and this lineup do against the Dodgers with him there. And Chapman coming back in a month at full health, playing third base. Devers bouncing back and forth at first base and DH. This Giants team gets just as scary as the San Diego Padres, and at this point, about as scary as the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, the Dodgers are having their own struggles beating the Padres. They've got a crazy series going on right now. And if you're not watching it, I always say it at the end, but I'm going to say it right now. You need to watch this Dodgers-Padres game tonight. It's at 10 p.m. Eastern, I think 6 p.m. Western, and then wherever you are in between. That game yesterday was absolute cinema. I mean, this is what you want out of a rivalry game. And I said it during rivalry week that these are the two teams that should have been playing if you wanted to promote rivalries. This is the best rivalry in baseball right now. Because you see, with Devers leaving the Red Sox, all of a sudden the Red Sox are less of a threat to the Yankees. And that rivalry is way lower. But the Padres and Dodgers are throwing balls at each other. They hit Fernando Tatis Jr. They hit Andy Paz yesterday. Tatis Jr. gets hit today. Or yesterday. I'm sorry. Day before they hit Paz. Yesterday they hit Tatis. And then the Padres hit Ohtani in retribution. And then there's a warning issue once Ohtani gets hit, because he gets hit with a fastball in the thigh. And Dave Roberts does what any manager is going to come to and say, well, why don't he get a warning and get himself ejected? Fine. Both benches are warned, though. But someone gets hit later on in the game, and this is the part that's not being talked about enough. Someone else on the Padres gets hit by a pitch in the hand, I believe, or the wrist, and then nothing happens. Nothing happens. Umpires just gave a warning. Usually that means next batter gets hit, that pitcher and that manager, who's at this point, I think the hitting coach, because Dave Roberts has already been ejected, they're both supposed to be ejected. Nothing happens. And Manny Machado kind of came out on the field and said, well, what's the point of the warning? And he was livid. And I get Manny Machado's stance in that position, because what is the point of the warning? We all are now on the same page, supposedly, that now if anyone gets hit, it's ejections immediately, followed by probably fines and suspensions. But you're not doing that. But that leaves tonight's game wide open. Now, what I don't know is, we'll see. I mean, maybe there will be a warning issue before first pitch, but tonight's going to be a crazy game. That's going to be a fun game to watch, and I, for sure, am going to watch it. Now, There's another side, going back to the Rafael Devers trade. There's another side of this, and it's what happens to the Red Sox now because you traded him, your best hitter, a prolific power bat, a half game back from a wild card spot. And then the next day, sure, I think they won, but now yesterday he got shut out by Brian Wu. And I believe they're playing right now as we speak. So we'll pop into that game in a second to see what that's looking like. But you traded away your best bat by a lot. And you were a half a game back from a wild card spot and not too far back, not like unsalvageable back from the division at 5 games. Now you're 5.5 back, again, half game back from the wild card. In a year that the Yankees are kind of limping to the finish line. Right, like right now, they are the favorites at minus 380 to win the AL East, sure. But how strong are they? They haven't scored in the last 3 games. They're in the midst of a losing streak, which is now at 4 games, right? Or no, that might be at 5 games. You just swept the Yankees, so you know you can beat them with the lineup that you had, but you made the trade. You're in 4th place in the AL East now, behind 2 teams that are now starting to surge. Now, supposedly, they think they can still pull it off this year. What the front office has come out and said, but you kind of have to come out and say that after you just traded your best hitter. You have to, or you're going to lose your job. You can't come out and tell the fan base that's been waiting for a good team, hey, we'll get them next year. So the Blue Jays are hot because that whole lineup is hot right now. Bichette's hot. Barger's hot. Clement's hot. Vladdy's having a great year since signing his new contract. So the Rays are hot. Brandon Lowe's hot. Brandon Lau's hot. Josh Lowe's hot. Junior Caminero and Jonathan Aranda out of nowhere is one of the best hitters in all of baseball. The Orioles are not at all a threat, and that left Boston. The Orioles not being a threat, I've always been really disappointed in because it's your own fault. It's your own fault. You didn't do anything that could significantly help you this offseason. Now, in the NL East, the Mets, they fell apart last night. Absolutely blew it. You had your closer in and everything. You're up 4-1 on a really struggling ball club, the Atlanta Braves, that are still trying to find their footing this season. It might be over for them. And you lost against a team that has collapsed themselves this year. I mean, they were up 10-4. The Braves were up 10-4 on the Arizona Diamondbacks, who are another team who has fallen apart this season, with the 9th inning with 1 out and lost. That just goes to show you about where the Braves are this year. They are not the playoff team we thought they would be when Acuna and Strider came back healthy. They have not looked like it. I mean, Acuna doesn't really look super comfortable just yet, but he'll figure some things out. But I don't think this team as a whole is going to be anywhere near as good as they were last year or in years before. I think this is going to be one of the worst years that the Atlanta Braves have in a few seasons. Now, the Mets did fall apart last night, but they are the favorites at minus 185. The second favorites are the Philadelphia Phillies, who I have harped on at plus 155, have plateaued. They're not going up from here. They've leveled out. They've kind of gotten stuck. And it's starting to show with the turmoil in the dugout. Yesterday, Nick Castellanos got benched by the Phillies manager, whose name is escaping me right now, because he criticized him for pulling Castellanos the game before because he went with some speed and defense. So Rob Thompson said, okay, we're going to go with speed and defense for the rest of that game. That was it, right? And this is a part of baseball. This happens. You know, if your big hitter's not going to get another at bat, but he's not necessarily the best player defensively, and you got a better option on the bench for the 8th and 9th inning, put him in. It happens. Now, Castellanos didn't like that. He made some comments, and the very next day, Castellanos gets benched. Do with that what you will, but for me, it's just more evidence of frustration because this team has stopped. They've stopped elevating. There is no more up. They've flattened out, they've leveled out, and it's only down from here at the end of this plateau, unless they do something insanely drastic. And I don't think they're going to. You see, they could. They need a new catcher because Realmuto's coming up on a contract year and he's aging anyway. So maybe they sign him for cheap, but you've only gone so far with this team. You've only gone so far. And that's about where you're going to continue to get. So you got to make a big trade at the deadline, or you got to make a big trade or signing this offseason, or that's it. Or maybe you might want to explore blowing this franchise up and starting over. Because right now the only beneficiary of things is the Mets. That the rest of this division has gone cold. And I'm not going to sit here and blame Rob Thompson for what's going on with the Phillies because it's not his fault. But there are a lot of managers that have taken the blame for poor performance this season. So I wouldn't be surprised if the drastic move the Phillies end up making is firing Rob Thompson. Again, I don't think he's one of there are some managers out there that don't need to have their jobs right now. I don't think Rob Thompson's necessarily one of them. But the front offices right now are cutting off heads. We saw it with the Devers trade, but we also saw it really. The Rockies fired Bud Black because they're terrible. The Orioles fired Brendan Hyde because they're terrible. And the Pirates fired Derek Shelton because they are also terrible. But I don't like that. I don't agree with that, so I'm going to go ahead and rephrase it. I'm going to rephrase it the way that I see it, the way that everyone should see it. And it's that the Colorado Rockies, the Colorado Rockies are underperforming because they have done nothing to bolster their roster. So they fired their manager as a scapegoat. They fired Bud Black as a scapegoat. The Orioles had the golden egg, back-to-back playoff appearances, and did absolutely less than nothing this offseason to make their team better, having the team that they had, and have fired Brendan Hyde as a scapegoat. The Pirates have the best pitcher in baseball and did nothing to give him a team to win around and have fired Derek Shelton as a scapegoat. That's what that is. Who should be fired are these GMs and these front office people that are making the decisions for these rosters. Because you have done nothing to give these managers the tools to win. So it's not their fault. And on the other side of it, you got a team like the Arizona Diamondbacks under Troy Lovullo, who have a great team, who have done everything to bolster their roster and are losing very winnable games. That's a team that could use a managerial change. But no, the Rockies The Orioles and the Pirates are going to scapegoat their managers while the Arizona Diamondbacks are just going to take it on the chin because they just like Troy Lovello. This is wrong. This is why people don't want to be managers in baseball. This is why, we all know players that we watched growing up or that we watched retire that we're like, that guy should become a manager. That guy should be a coach. And they don't because of this right here. Because now all of a sudden, if the organization doesn't give you the tools to win with, it's your job, not theirs. And that's wrong. I don't agree with any of those manager firings. And I think Troy Lovello should be fired. Not that I don't like him, but that is a prime example of a team that's trying to do everything to win, but they need a new guy in charge of that lineup. They do. They really do. And then there's the Central and the way that the Cubs are running away with the NL Central after they went and bought a manager, essentially. They stole Craig Counsell from the Brewers, right? And then the Tigers, they went and got AJ Hinch because even though he, got fired for cheating, they knew he could put together a ball club. And now look at those two teams running away with the respective Centrals. The Cubs are taking off with the NL Central. The Tigers are way running away with the American League Central. Pete Crow Armstrong with the Cubs is on pace for more than just a 40-40 season. He's going to be an all-star. If he's not an all-star, I don't know what we're doing anymore. But the real one is the Tigers because Tarek Skubal's going to win the Cy Young in the American League again, back-to-back years. And on top of that, the lineup is so good right now. Everybody on that team is hitting. Kerry Carpenter, Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, Parker Meadows, guys coming off the bench. But the big ones are Spencer Torkelson, right? Gleyber Torres, I forgot to mention, but Spencer Torkelson and Javier Baez. Spencer Torkelson and Javier Baez are having their best seasons offensively right now with these Detroit Tigers. And this was a team that kind of snuck and crawled their way into the playoffs last year. They're not doing that this year. They're dominating. They're 9.5 games above the defending divisional champions, the Guardians. 9.5 games against 9.5 above the division champs, the Guardians. That's insane. The second place team is almost 10 games back. There's nobody catching them in that division. Like the Cubs are great. Don't get me wrong. They're going to win that division. They're 6.5 above the Brewers, who are the defending divisional champions in the National League Central. And they're going to win that division the way PCA is playing. And then Seiya Suzuki's been an RBI machine for them. They don't have a Tarek Skubal backed by a Jack Flaherty. Their question mark, and the question mark of the entire NL Central really is the pitching. But that team's going to win a lot of games. Kyle, that lineup of Happ, Tucker, PCA, Horner, Suzuki, who am I forgetting? That's been an absolute dog for the Cubs. That lineup is hard to mess with, especially in a 3-game series or a 5-game series. A 7-game series, that's where it's going to get a little tough for the Cubs, right? Like if you run into the Dodgers in the CS or you run into the Mets, that's where it's going to get tough for you because you can't out-hit good pitching in a 7-game series. But in a 3 or a 5, those are like one swing series. With those Tigers, it's hard to think that they're not the American League champions this year. I love it. I think they're going to be. I think they're going to be the champions. So when we look at that, the Tigers find themselves in the top 10, in the top 5, I should say, in the World Series odds at plus 900 for the first time this year. They have the second best odds for any team in the American League behind the Yankees. And I honestly think the Yankees are only above them because they did it last year. Honestly. Because they got there last year. Because they won the American League last year. If we look at the league winners odds, which I rarely look at, I'm going to look at them now. The Yankees are plus 220 favorites. The Tigers are plus 330. Only 110 points back. That's not that much. That's really not that much. So it is a toss-up between these two teams, whether the World Series odds show it or not. And then there's the toss-up in the AL West. And it's, two teams that I think are just... Let me not finish that sentence the way I was going to say it. Let me say it how it actually is. The Detroit Tigers, or the Seattle Mariners and the Houston Astros, it's a two-team race between them. The Astros are in first place, so they're the favorites at minus 290. And again, they are the defending divisional champions in the American League West. The Astros minus 290, defending ALS champs, followed by the Seattle Mariners, who are plus 420 underdogs. And I thought this would be a three-team race. Excuse me. I thought this would be a three-team race with the... Oh, my goodness. I'm getting hiccups like I'm 5 years old. I thought this would be a three-team race with the Rangers. But it's not going to be. Because the Rangers look like the Mariners from last season. They can't hit with all the pitching that they have. The way Brian Wu stepped it up. Castillo. Kirby's back. I mean, that was the Mariners. Now, granted, it's not like the Mariners have a great lineup. They just happen to have Cal Raleigh, who's leading all of baseball in home runs right now. Been going back and forth with Aaron Judge. The shutouts have caught up in the home run race that the Yankees have had, so Cal Raleigh's taking it. He's running with it. Now, what if Cal Raleigh gets hurt? That's it for the Mariners. Because Jorge Polanco's been hitting great, don't get me wrong, but that's it in that lineup. We saw it yesterday. They put up 8 runs on the Red Sox. Cal Raleigh was responsible for, I think, 5 of them. That's it. And the Astros are a team that knows how to win. They know how to get to the playoffs, and they know how to win in the playoffs. So as much as my heart wants the Mariners to win this division, because I just want to see that team with all that good pitching get to the playoffs at least, and then we can see what they can do. I don't think they're going to. They don't, and it's unfortunate. And when you look at the wild card, I mean, sure, they're there, but Guardians are a half game back. The Red Sox are a half game back. The Twins are a game back. So let's see what happens with the Mariners. Right now, you can pretty much book it that the Astros and Hunter Brown are going to be there. I don't know if Cal Raleigh and the Mariners are. That's the show pretty much. What am I watching the rest of this week and into this weekend? Well, tonight I'm watching Padres Dodgers. Again, that's just going to be cinema. Like cinema. I had to see how this series ends. And then Mets Braves, you should watch that too, because I'm curious to see if this is the turning point in the Braves season. I don't think it is. I think they're kind of stuck Like that's it for them. And then this weekend, it's going to be Mets Phillies. Because those are the top two teams in that division, and the Phillies, a sweep or 2 games winning makes a big difference. But anything other than that, the Mets are going to really start to distance themselves in the NL East. And then the Red Sox Giants, because guess what? The Red Sox are in San Francisco facing their old pal Rafi. And I want to see if he makes them pay. I want to see if he makes it hurt. I think he should. So with that, thank everyone who has joined on TikTok, on Instagram. I don't know how Ron got into this stream itself, but did. Shout out to you. I don't know how you did that, but you're here. Unless you're watching on YouTube, maybe that was happening. I'm not sure. But thank you all for joining. I will see you next week with another episode of the Baseball Odds Watch podcast. Have a great week.